record. Okay. Hey, everybody. My name is now Amanda Crichlow Silva. It was Amanda Ryan, but it is no longer. And this is Crucial Conversations, Creativity, and Religious Expression. So if you went to Abraham's Whiteboard, which is one of Jeremy Fricke's programs, our education director, we co-did the last one, which was last Thursday. And it was about religion and art. And so he went through a grand chronology of art and religion, spiritual and cultural influences. So that was things like Hellenization and the Enlightenment, and just how art and religion developed over time. And then I went over some of the symbols and religious art that people have created and that we have seen, and then some new pieces that people hadn't seen. And I went into some mystic art and had y'all, if you were in attendance, kind of tell me what you thought you saw in it. And no answer was correct, no answer was wrong, and it is what it is, right? That's the beautiful thing about both religion and art, is it's about what the person brings to it, right? So that's what we did last week, and today we're going to build off of that bit in a more personal way and looking about how you interact with art and creativity and religion. So how I have this set up is in a series of 3 questions and 3 sections, and we're going to go through and kind of see where the connections are. And if you're a creative, I encourage you to help us and show us your artwork as well. I kind of set it up where I am currently doing my art. So I have some tracing paper over here. This is what I'm using to create the ketubah, or the marriage contract, for my marriage. And then another piece that I'm currently working on, which has some religious symbols in it as well, and some indigenous symbols. So if we have time and people have art that they want to show that they've either created or it's in their space that has some religious meaning to them, or even if it's not religious meaning, it actually might be, and we might be able to think about that together as a group. So anybody have any questions to begin? Are you all good with the framework? This is going to be conversational, so I want you guys to engage, and I'll call on people because I see a lot of familiar faces, including Beth over here, who's quiet, who's probably trying to hide in the corner.
No, I'm not trying to hide in the corner.
I'm just joking. So this first one is around art, creativity, and religion in general. So what do these terms mean to you? And we're gonna just follow these arrows from one question to the next. So does anybody want to start with that one?
Hi, this is Carrie Pillen, and I think that sometimes art can make us more expressive and increase our religious belief, but sometimes it can box us into a corner and make concepts that should be so huge seem so small. I'm thinking again of kind of Hellenistic art and, you know, what God the Creator is supposed to look like, and scenes like that.
Mm-hmm.
Great answer.
In particular, what does the creativity or just the word creation mean to you?
Wow. I guess creation I think of as the grand creation, the creation of everything that there is, which is absolutely ongoing. And I think I probably limit myself in terms of thinking as if there's a true beginning, which I don't know if that is as big a way as I should be looking at the realm of existence. But creativity, I guess to me, I think maybe celebration, you know, that like what you do with your art, you're celebrating your thoughts and your emotions when you create something.
Does
Carrie, I agree
anybody
with you. I
here?
think right
Okay.
off the bat, I was thinking of like the grand creation, and I also think of freedom when I think of creativity. That creativity either needs freedom or seeks freedom, and I think that's a lot of how I understand my relationship with God is uh, this work in my own life, using like with the tools and gifts of religion and spirituality, to find freedom to be in a deeper and greater relationship with God and to respond more freely to God's love. And I think as I've expanded the way creativity shows up in my life as an artist, creativity certainly shows up there, but I'm also a campus minister. And so thinking about the part of creativity has in prayer, like if when we bring creativity into prayer, how can we encounter the divine in so many like limitless ways, like you said, Carrie, and I appreciate the dynamism you said about how art can bring freedom or can bring boxes to our spaces. So I'll stop talking there, although I'm sure that I'll chime in again soon with some more.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're jumping ahead in my question, so that's awesome. So I'm gonna stop you there.
Yes, I'll stop.
Anybody else?
I think they're soul connected. For me, they are personally. Art connects to my soul, creativity, and also religion has a connection to my soul, or it's generated through my soul. I think that is all kind of it's more than a linkage. I don't know how my words are inadequate, but I think it's all for me personally, it's a soul connection. Where all those things come from, whether it's experiential piece of looking at a piece of art or seeing something that's creative, or sitting through a sermon, or me being the active participant or creator or whatever of those areas, of those three areas.
For sure. Let me see. I saw that Deb unmuted herself earlier. Did you have something
I
you
probably
wanted to add?
forgot it by now. I was just going to say, I think there's a spiritual centering that is the prerequisite for creating as well as for connecting. So I think there's a body, mind, heart connection between both of those things. And they can go together or they can be separate, but they are parallel. I mean, they're very similar.
Right.
And
that's kind of the. Sorry, you go, Cheryl.
I think change and how we evolve with those things also interact.
Yeah.
Do you all look for a mixture of art and creativity and religion in your everyday lives? Do you look for religious art in particular, or and I guess I should also ask, does anybody consider themselves a creator?
Yeah.
I'll chime in. My name is Liz. And when I think of creativity, I think of process. And it feels like a multi-dimensional experience to me. And that idea of flow comes into play. Like you lose sense of time. And
Yeah.
for me,
Yes.
I probably trade the word religion for, instead I would say spirituality. And so as I was sitting here thinking, I thought, oh, those same ideas fit for me with spirituality, process, a multidimensional experience and flow. And sometimes I'm experiencing them together or expressing myself creatively and having a spiritual experience. And maybe art is a little bit more formal somehow.
Interesting. Okay. Could you explain a little bit about why you wanted to differentiate between religion and spirituality in this context?
Sure. For me, religion, I guess, feels like a box. And I was raised in a Methodist church and I'm still, I don't know. I don't know how I identify now. I think I've grown into more being a Buddhist in my thinking processes and etc., but not a practicing Buddhist. So the word spirituality just fits for me better. It's
It
more
fits for
resonant.
you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you.
sure.
Anybody?
And I think making a division between religion and creativity in some ways is artificial. I mean, because I can see just a glorious painting or an amazing piece of music and have what I would call a religious reaction, religious experience. But I kind of agree with Liz that I tend to use the word spirituality more, even though I'm a church lady. I just, because religion can, yeah, the word religion can just be confining. And and I don't go looking for religious art because I agree with, I can't remember who said it at the very beginning. We have so many, I think, theological misconceptions based on artists who were expressing how they literally understood a few words out of scripture. And then for all time, or for hundreds of years, that's how people interpreted that scripture when it wasn't at all probably accurate.
One of the things that I think of in terms of that, and I showed in last week's, was Auguste Rodin's Gates of Hell, that was inspired by Dante's Inferno. And so much of our depiction of what hell is now
is based on Dante.
Off of Dante,
Yeah.
right? So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, and it looks like Eileen's showing us something.
Yes,
Right.
I'm showing you my art and religion together, because this is the cover of my new talit that I wear during morning communion.
Oh, Eileen, it's gorgeous.
Very beautiful, gorgeous piece of artwork that I get to wear
so
in the morning when I'm praying. It comes from Israel. It was a gift to me this year. And so when I think of religion, art, and creativity, I think of this. It's called the Garden of Eden, actually. It has a name and everything.
Is it embroidered? Is it embroidered, Eileen?
Yeah,
it's
embroidered with different birds of Israel and different flowers that you find in Israel.
Oh,
and
word.
yeah, that's the pattern that's
Wow.
on it. Yeah, it's very beautiful.
Mm.
So I get to wear beautiful creative art every day when I pray. So that's what I think of.
I love it.
That actually.
Say to Eileen, you are a beautiful piece of artwork.
I'll second that.
Already,
Wow.
without any help, anything else.
Y'all are jumping ahead. I got something on that too. Jeez Louise. Okay, but Eileen's comment segued perfectly into intention ritual prayer, right? So a lot of you guys are already connecting all of these things, and which is awesome. That means I have the right crowd here who can engage in this conversation, and so it's really fun for me as a creative and also somebody who is religious and spiritual, right? And that I incorporate a lot of that together on both sides. So what are some of the religious rituals and prayers that you do? Especially now, I think we've had to revamp how we do them with COVID, right? Especially if we have communal prayers. So there's creativity around how we are now doing that. So has anybody changed maybe their rituals and prayers? No. Interesting. Okay.
I think one thing that I do, it's not really a ritual or a prayer, but I really have a deep appreciation of other religions and other forms of other types of religion and prayer and so on. Well, I guess where this is coming from is last night I went to yeah, I Zoomed. That's how I go places. I Zoomed. I listened to a lecture from Jocelyn, and it was on American Indian art, and it was a lot of the symbols in the beading and so on was symbolic of different prayers and ways that American Indians of particular tribes were worshiping. So I don't know if that that's kind of not really right on topic, but that's what came to my mind.
Yeah, but it is. So one of the resources that I grabbed before is an illustrated dictionary of the gods and symbols of ancient Mexico and the Maya. So those are still infused in Mexican traditional belief and Catholicism. And so they use, I don't know if you can see, but the depictions and how you create narratives for the Mayans is all through art, right? And so it's art and storytelling. So it wasn't a stretch. I think that that's right on par for the course. Anybody else?
Amanda, I would add that you inspired me to remember this week my ketubah with David, and that we wrote our own version of poetry in terms of our covenant with each other. And we had it created into a piece of art, but the words themselves are art.
Yep. And so is ours, yeah. I can't see your name, but you are raising your hand.
I think it's me. I'm Erica.
Yes.
I was just gonna, on your question on like rituals or things that you're doing, habits, I would make a plug for the Lectio 365 app. I come from the Christian tradition, and this is an app I think I maybe started using it in 2019, but I really started trying to use it every day in 2020. And they do like a 10 to 12 minute prayer. But if you're familiar with Lectio 365, I won't go in that, but it's based in the Lectio Divina tradition, but they center it around 6 key practices, one of which is creativity. So I will drop a link in the chat.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
For anybody who might be interested in it. I find that it's a very great start to my day to kind of just like center myself in a very calming prayer if you have that 10 to 12 minutes.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And that, as just a note, if any of you do have any links to whether it's creative ritual, creative prayer, creativity in general that you want to share with folks, please put them in the chat. And that was a reminder to me to monitor the chat to make sure I wasn't missing anybody's comments. Is there anybody else before I kind of show you some of mine? Okay. So this was actually a challah cover that I made at a Jewish retreat. And so I included the pomegranates, which are classic Jewish symbolism, and then also Shabbat in Hebrew, and colored them in different colors. Not my best, but that's me being vulnerable with you all. And then also similar to Eileen is I have this talit, which is made from fabric from Senegal. So even though it's just the fabric of it, it's the tie-dye of it that makes it creative and adds something new to it in a very similar way, but different as Eileen's, right? It's not the standard just white talit with some blue stripes on it. It gets to be the personality of the person, right? So I think that's really beautiful. And then also, if you think from Christianity, right, the stained glass windows, somebody may meditate by looking at those windows. Music, and so that moves me to prayer, and specifically, is there a creative aspect to how you pray or prayer within your faith tradition? Bonnie's shaking her head.
I was just thinking about my eldest grandchild becoming a bat mitzvah, and that would be something that she and I could work on as a talit together, what she would like to have, you know.
Oh, I love that.
It hadn't actually occurred to me until just this instant, and I would love that. So yeah, that would be, and forever, you know, that would be something forever. And as you know, people who participate in all the Jewish traditions, there's a tradition and a ritual for every flippin' thing there is. And that tradition becomes very shared all over the world, and then it becomes personal, just like Shabbat prayer becomes personal then. And that creativity that you offer your family through expressing your personal ritual makes it's like Monopoly. You know, everybody plays Monopoly, but everybody has family rules. And so I think that's the same thing about this ritual and this, you know, how you fit it into your family and what it means for them. So thank you. I've already gotten my money's worth out of this tonight. Thinking about what Miriam and I can share together that's going to be very personal, but it will be with her forever. So thank you.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Okay, yeah, that kind of that made me have to pause for a second. How do you set intention and ritual around creation or creativity in art?
I get to work with different groups as part of my ministry, and especially for the ones that are ongoing, we use creativity we use art to create something that will be a symbol for our community, to remind each other what each of us is bringing to the community, what a commitment we're making to the community might be. It sort of depends on what the intention of the art piece is, depends on the group and the year a little bit. But last year, I also get to work with an interfaith prayer service that happens at Creighton University. And last year, we invited the community to contribute by writing a hope they had on a piece of ribbon. And then one of the students in the group taught us about the tradition of weaving in her native tradition. And then the students took time to weave together this tapestry that hung during the interfaith prayer service of those hopes. And they prayed in their own tradition, whatever that looked like for them, as they wove those pieces together. And it became such a beautiful symbol of the community coming together, but also what prayer looks like from our different traditions, all symbolized sort of in this one piece.
Wow. Karen added into the chat that she creates virtual rituals when they can't in real life. Karen, would you mind explaining how you do that if you're able to unmute? Or you can also put it in the chat.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I joined a virtual world called Second Life about 16 years ago. And part of that virtual world, it is not a game, although it needs gaming software on your computer in order to access it because of the graphics intense nature of it. But it's a world where the residents create what you see around you. You create your avatar, the environment, whether it's a house or a building or a forest or something not even of the real world, you know, something entirely your own creation. And you could do this in real time with others, and you collaborate in real time with anyone around the world. And you know, so you got a lot of different communities, and it's incredibly useful for those who are disabled and a lot who are homebound, because you know, you start getting very socially isolated, and being able to meet others who have similar challenges to you is very freeing, and it's became something I could get into because I am disabled, and it became a social outlet. And part of that is I was able to create a Hanukkah menorah from what's called primitives or prims, and to create a sukkah, things I can't do physically anymore, and have that ritual and share it with others, either who don't know what it is or who also celebrate the same way. And it's been amazing to have that outlet.
And were you all able to see me go through those links that she shared?
Yes, that is amazing. That is so fabulous, Karen.
Yeah, especially during COVID too, for everybody. They've been using Second Life a lot. I tried.
Yeah.
And kudos to you, because I can't figure it out.
Contact me. The name on that Flickr account is my Second Life name. Get a hold of me. I'll help you out.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Now, I've been there long, and I can pretty much guess by telling me what's going on. I can guess what you're seeing on your screen and how to fix it. So
cool.
Been around the block.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yep. No problem.
Does anybody else have any thoughts around this, around intention, ritual, and prayer? That is okay. One of the things that I want to say is that both in Judaism and Islam in particular is the use of vocalization in our prayers. And that happens in some different forms of Christianity as well, beyond singing like choir songs, right? Like I'm thinking about Roman Catholicism in particular, that there's a lot of use of voicing as well. Now, space. This is what I'm interested in a lot as like a side hobby, is a religious space. And now that our religious space is our homes, what does that mean, right? So do you have a home religious space or an altar of some sort?
Well, I wouldn't call it an altar. I call it a candle and a little piece of art on the coffee table that's there in the morning when I go to meditate. It counts.
I'd call it an altar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My grandma definitely had one. She was Catholic and Latino, right? We're a Mexican American family. And so the reliance on the saint candles for prayer and protection was an altar space and religious space for her. And as I'm connecting to my roots, like, I'm sure you kind of have figured out, or if you know me, that's why I have this book on Mayan deities, right? I'm learning more and creating my own ritual space and altar space with my Latino Jewish identity instead, right? So do you have a creative or artistic space? You're seeing mine as it is right now. It's not always this space. I also have a corner by our couch, and I have a whole office that I'm supposed to do my work in. But those spaces aren't doing it for me right now. So do you create an artistic space when you are producing art?
I really don't, outside of where my laptop sits in the kitchen when I have it open, or wherever I'm able to do crochet, but I don't have a dedicated space.
Amanda, I have a couple of thoughts from what you've been saying. This is Jean. I'm in Minneapolis. I can't see the gallery view today. I only can see a couple of you at a time for some reason, but I'm a seeker. I'm searching, and I'm not into any religion at this point. I'm drawn to Judaism, and I'm not exactly sure why, but I'm taking the Judaism 101 class. I've just started that. I've been doing some reading. And one of the articles that I read said that even searching and thinking and studying is a form of prayer. So I can't personally say I have a ritual or an altar, but when I see nature or when I read something that seems to me to touch me personally somehow, that seems to me like spirituality, and I hope it's a religious experience. And then I don't know if I can show you, I'm in my creative space. There, can you see
I
my?
love it. Yeah, you are.
I'm a quilter, and my customers bring their tops to me and ask me to finish them for them. So it takes creativity to figure out what to do. And it's a sharing and a communication and a communion between me and my customers is the way I see it, because I ask them, how are you going to use it? Who's going to use it? You know, where is it going to be used? What does it mean to you? And then I'm able, through my focus, to create something that has special meaning to them. It's to change something that already has special meaning to them into something that has more meaning. That seems like creativity to me, and it's spiritual to some extent.
Yeah, that absolutely is. And when I was thinking about nature, I'm sure a lot of these garden folks that are on our garden volunteer team and committee can attest to the spirituality and creative nature of nature in general, right? They're shaking their heads. So then that kind of, Jean, the way you explained it is that it can be same, right? Those spaces, that religious space and that artistic space, are a lot of times the same for you.
Yeah, for sure. They're intertwined.
Yeah. And for whatever reason, mine aren't. I do religious and spiritual-esque type art, but they're not connected. My spaces aren't. So that's something interesting for me to think about as we're having this conversation. Yeah.
You say they're not connected?
No. They used to be.
You feel like you have a spiritual space, you feel like you have an altar, but you don't feel like your art is connected to your space.
The product itself is, the spaces are not. Yeah.
And you don't need to be in a certain space when you get that creativity?
I do, but I didn't think of it in terms of spirituality. So this program is just about discovery for myself as much as it is for you guys too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then those are all the pre-made questions that I had. And like I said, I was hoping that if some of you do have art, that you'd be willing to share. Does anybody?
Hi, so I am not a producer of art, but I feel like whenever I go to my Catholic services, that I want to speak out loud and clear that I am not promoting the attitude that the Catholic Church has towards the GBLTQ and etc. community. So I always just really doll myself up with as much rainbow paraphernalia as I've got. I make sure that even if I'm lecturing, people see me coming and going, and hopefully people notice that and understand my point.
Absolutely. And that brings in a big point about creativity and expression through clothing, right? And attire, which a lot of people, we had this discussion last week in Jeremy's program about things like the hamsa, right? So people wear the hamsa necklace a lot. And if you don't know what that is, it's typically depicted as a hand And they'll have writing, typically in Hebrew or Arabic, depending on the tradition, and sometimes the little evil eye symbol in the middle, or a fish. There's a lot of different symbolism within the Hamsa. So that one of the things that Jeremy brought up was the commercialization and mass production of art, and how does that change religious art, right? So if you guys have ideas about that too, that's not one of the questions I was thinking of, but that goes from the individual to the larger masses, right? Okay. So Bonnie told Eileen that she is a beautiful piece of art, which I agree. You all are beautiful pieces of art. So I really like this series of photos that we did with the blank space. Number one, I wanted to say thank you to all of you for attending tonight, but then also to view each of ourselves as pieces of art. And that ultimately, if you do believe in a creator, and even if you believe, you know, and you rely more on the scientific explanation of creation, right, versus the religious, we're still being created. And I think that that is a really fun way for us to look at being art within the world, to take care of ourselves, and to be happy if we can. I know there's a lot of things right now that make it so we can't, but yeah. That's all I had for you all, unless you have any other discussion that you would like to have. Any questions?
So another thought from me. Once again, it's all focused on the garden and the orchard. One of these days, I'd love to have an art project that involved tri-faith in general, our buildings separately or together, our kids working for some kind of art project centered around the garden. And maybe that project wouldn't even be in the garden. I mean, it could be about the garden, but not in the garden, or not about the orchard, but not in the orchard. So I think all of that could be beautiful in a way that it will be unique to Tri-Faith, and experience it in the way that we can. I have no idea what that would be. I feel inspired by this, Amanda. And I feel like all of us who are out at the garden feel inspired every single time we're out there. It's a miracle. My grandmother used to say, you can take credit for planting the seed, but not growing the seed. And it's all bigger than us. And I find comfort and joy from knowing that we're all different. I would hate a world of all me's. It would be so boring. So yes, thank you. I really appreciate that. I love seeing all of you. I'm inspired by all of you and everything that everybody said tonight. So thank you, Amanda. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you all. And I'm glad, Bonnie, that you've been inspired to create a ritual garment with your granddaughter. Yeah, that one got me in the feels, everybody. So I hope that you all can also take a piece of that and think about how you can use some creativity and artistic ability. Even if you think you don't have it, you have it. It just comes in a different form for everybody. So I encourage you all to embrace that as we can begin 2021. So thank you. I will be sending a recap email with, I don't have a survey link with me right now, but a recap of the event. And if you have any questions or anything, I will also be happy to answer those for you. So everybody have a warm and safe night if you are driving anywhere. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Amanda.
Thank you.